clever dwarf thief. A long time ago in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a very clever dwarf. He was so clever, in fact, that he could easily outsmart anyone, even the smartest wizard, and he used his skills to become the wealthiest dwarf in the whole kingdom. One day, the king became suspicious that the dwarf was using magic to make more and more gold. So he sent his men to search the dwarf's house. They tore apart his bedroom, but they didn't find anything. They searched his workshop, but nothing. Finally, they went into his vault where all his treasure was kept, and that's where they found the source of the dwarf's wealth. The walls of the vault were lined with books, and not just any books, spell books. The men had never seen so many spell books in one place before. The king took these books back to the palace and locked them in his own vault. He thought that maybe if he studied them, he could become wealthy like the dwarf. But unfortunately for the king, he didn't have the brains to understand the complex spells written in the ancient language. Meanwhile, the dwarf was very sad that his spell books were taken from him. He missed them so much that he decided to pay the king a visit. When the dwarf arrived at the palace, he asked the king to return his spell books. If you studied them, you would go mad, the dwarf warned. But the king refused. He wanted those spell books. So the dwarf had only one option left. He had to retrieve his spell books by himself. But how could he possibly get past the guards and get into the vault? The answer came to him when he noticed a group of children playing near the palace. He walked up to them and asked if they wanted to see something really cool. Of course, they said yes. He told them that if they helped him get into the vault, he would give them each a sack full of gold. The children agreed without hesitation. The dwarf approached the vault and whispered a spell. In a blink of an eye, he turned into a tiny mouse. Then he scurried through a hole in the wall and disappeared inside. The guards were too busy arguing with the kids who were now demanding their gold that they didn't notice the dwarf enter the vault. He quickly grabbed his spell books and was about to make his escape when the king entered the vault himself. The dwarf had nowhere to hide, but then he had an idea. He quickly wrote a spell on one of the books and cast it. The spell made the king fall asleep right where he stood. The dwarf then took the books and ran away. He returned to his house and changed back into his regular form. From that day on, the dwarf was never bothered by the king again, and he lived happily ever after. The end.